80 samurai stood on a cold, windswept beach in Tsushima, facing an enormous Mongol invasion fleet, covering the entire horizon. Behind them was Japan. In front of them, the largest empire on Earth. They knew they were going to die. What they didn't know was that their final stand would unleash one of the most terrifying invasions in history. 80 samurai stood on a lonely beach, staring at an ocean filled with nearly 20,000 Mongol warriors. Behind them was Japan. In front of them was the largest empire on Earth. They knew they were going to die. What they didn't know was that their final stand would unleash one of the most terrifying invasions in history. A massacre so brutal that entire islands were turned into graveyards. Prisoners were hung from ships like trophies, and a storm powerful enough to erase an empire's fleet would become a legend worshipped for 700 years. November 18th, 1274 AD. The island of Tsushima wakes beneath a gray sky and an uneasy sea. Fishermen stop rowing. Villagers leave their homes and stare toward the horizon. At first, it looks like a dark line stretching across the water. Then the line grows larger. Sails, hundreds of them. The Mongol fleet has arrived. For 7 years, Japan ignored every warning, every letter from Kublai Khan, every threat carried across the sea by imperial messengers. While the Mongol Empire swallowed kingdoms across Asia and Europe, Japan answered with silence. No tribute, no surrender, no negotiation. To the samurai, submission was worse than death. But there was one problem. Japan had never faced an enemy like this before. The samurai understood honor. They understood ritual combat, loyalty, lineage, and glory on the battlefield. They fought civil wars between rival clans, battles where warriors announced their names before charging, battles where reputation mattered as much as victory. The Mongols came from a different world entirely. They didn't care about honor. They cared about conquest. They had burned cities to the ground across China, crushed armies in Korea, stormed through Central Asia like a human avalanche. And now that avalanche was heading straight for Japan. On Tsushima, the military governor So Sukekuni watches the sea from a cliffside. Wind tears through his armor as he counts the ships below. 10, 50, 100, then too many to count. He already knows the truth. 80 samurai cannot stop 20,000 invaders. Around him stand men he has known his entire life, warriors with families waiting at home, men with wives, children, temples, rice fields, and futures that suddenly feel very small beneath the shadow of the Mongol fleet. The easy choice would be retreat, escape to Kyushu, warn the shogunate, save whoever can still be saved. But if Tsushima falls without resistance, the Mongols gain a perfect foothold into Japan. Worse, the leaders on the mainland may not understand the scale of the invasion until it's too late. So Sukekuni makes a decision that seals his fate. They stay, they fight, and they die buying time. As the first Mongol ships grind against the shore of Komoda Beach, the samurai prepare themselves for the kind of battle they think they understand. Horses stamp nervously in the sand, bows are tightened, katanas slide from their sheaths with the sound of sharpened steel whispering into the cold air. Then the enemy steps onto Japanese soil for the first time in history. The samurai immediately realize something is wrong. The Mongols don't charge recklessly. They move together, shields locked, archers positioned behind infantry, every step measured, every movement disciplined. This isn't a collection of warriors, it's a machine. One samurai named Takasaki Suinaga rides forward, exactly as tradition demands. He shouts his name across the battlefield, expecting another warrior to answer, expecting a duel. Instead, hundreds of arrows fly toward him all at once. The sky turns black. Suinaga barely has time to react before arrows punch into his shoulder and leg. His horse collapses beneath him, screaming as it crashes into the sand. He rolls across the beach, dazed, struggling to breathe while Mongol soldiers advance without hesitation. No challenge, no honor, no conversation, only death. Nearby, another samurai charges directly into the Mongol lines to save him. He knows it's suicide. He rides anyway. The Mongols surround him instantly. Spears stab from every direction. Arrows strike his armor. He disappears beneath a wall of enemies, while Suinaga crawls away through blood-soaked sand. It's the moment the samurai world begins to collapse. Across Komoda Beach, the 80 defenders are being erased. Whenever a samurai charges, 10 Mongols attack him together. Archers fire in coordinated volleys, while infantry closes in from the sides. The Japanese warriors are brave, skilled, even deadly in close combat. But bravery means nothing against an army that fights like a single living organism. Then comes the sound no one on Tsushima has ever heard before. A strange whistle cuts through the air. An instant later, the earth explodes. Fire erupts near the samurai lines as iron bombs launched from Mongol ships detonate across the battlefield. Metal fragments rip through armor and flesh. Horses panic and throw riders into the sand. Men cover their ears as thunder crashes around them again and again. Some samurai think the gods themselves are attacking. But this isn't divine power. It's gunpowder. Technology from a world far beyond anything Japan has faced. Sukekuni watches his men die one by one. The beach has become a nightmare of smoke, screaming horses, shattered armor, and burning bodies. Every tactic the samurai rely on is failing. Still, nobody retreats, because retreat would mean abandoning Japan itself. Hours pass. The defenders are reduced to scattered pockets of exhausted survivors. Bodies cover the shoreline. Waves carry blood back into the sea. Finally, Sukekuni gathers the few samurai still standing. 23 men. That's all that remains. He could commit ritual suicide and die with dignity. Many samurai would choose that path, but Sukekuni decides on something else. He grips his katana, lowers his head toward the enemy, and charges directly into the Mongol formation. The remaining samurai follow him without hesitation. For one final moment, they become a wall of steel, crashing against impossible odds. They slash through shields, cut down soldiers, scream into the chaos, as arrows and spears tear into them from every direction. None survive. The battle lasts less than 3 hours. 80 samurai dead. Komoda Beach belongs to the Mongols. And for the first time in history, a foreign army stands on Japanese soil. The Mongols don't celebrate the victory on Tsushima. To them, it barely counts as a battle. It's a warm-up. As more troops pour from the ships onto the beach, the island transforms into occupied territory almost overnight. War drums echo through the forests. Fires burn across villages. The survivors hiding in caves and mountains listen to unfamiliar voices moving through the darkness below. The Mongols spread out with terrifying efficiency. One force secures the coastline, another moves inland hunting for resistance. Others begin building defenses immediately, preparing Tsushima as a staging ground for the invasion of mainland Japan. That is what makes the Mongols so dangerous. They don't just attack, they conquer permanently. Families attempting to escape in fishing boats are intercepted at sea. Villagers are dragged from temples and homes. Entire communities disappear into Mongol camps. And then the invaders unleash the kind of terror that made half the world fear their name. Because killing people is only part of conquest. Fear is the real weapon. The Mongols understand that terror travels faster than armies. If the next target hears stories horrifying enough, resistance collapses before the battle even begins. So they create a message for Japan. Prisoners are gathered along the shore. Men, women, children, priests, farmers. The soldiers pierce holes through their palms and thread ropes through the wounds. Then they hang the captives from the sides of Mongol ships like human decorations. Some are already dead, others are still alive. Imagine standing on the next island and seeing those ships emerge through the morning fog. Bodies swaying beside the hulls. Human beings turned into warnings. This is what happens if you resist. Heads are piled across the beaches. Corpses rot beneath the autumn rain. Smoke rises from burned villages while the Mongol fleet prepares to move again. Tsushima falls completely within 2 days. But before the island is swallowed entirely, one message escapes. A rider slips away during the chaos and crosses the sea toward Kyushu, carrying impossible news. Thousands of invaders, weapons that explode like thunder, entire samurai clans annihilated in hours. At first, the leaders in Japan struggle to believe him. For years, Kublai Khan's threats felt distant, almost unreal. Many assumed the Mongol Emperor had lost interest in Japan, that China and Korea demanded too much attention for an invasion across dangerous seas. Now the truth arrives, covered in blood and terror. The Mongols are coming. Across Kyushu, samurai begin gathering along the coast. Messengers ride without rest. Villages near the shoreline evacuate inland. Blacksmiths work day and night repairing armor and forging arrows. But Japan has another problem. There is no massive national army waiting to defend the country. The samurai are elite warriors, but there are only thousands of them spread across different clans and regions. Against the Mongols, they are badly outnumbered, and the invasion hasn't even reached mainland Japan yet. The next target is Iki Island, another stepping stone toward Kyushu, another isolated community standing directly in the path of the largest empire on Earth. Iki's governor, Taira no Kagetaka, receives the reports from Tsushima. He hears every detail, the bombs, the formations, the slaughter, the hanging bodies, and now he faces the same impossible decision. Escape while there's still time, or stay and fight knowing death is certain. But unlike Tsushima, Iki has days to prepare. Kagetaka fortifies beaches with barricades. Archers take positions in the hills. Women and children are moved deeper inland, toward temples and makeshift fortresses. The samurai prepare ambush points along narrow passes where Mongol numbers matter less. They know they cannot win. Their goal is simply to slow the enemy down. When the Mongol fleet finally appears on the horizon, every defender on Iki sees the same horrifying sight. The bodies from Tsushima are still hanging from the ships. Some of the defenders recognize the faces: friends, merchants, families they met during festivals and trade gatherings, now reduced to rotting warnings swaying above the waves. The landing begins with explosions. Bombs launched from Mongol ships crash into the coastline, tearing apart barricades and scattering defenders. Arrows darken the sky moments later. Thousands of them. Then the infantry charges. This time, the samurai adapt. Instead of rushing blindly into the Mongol lines, they attack in smaller groups from hills and forests. Hit-and-run strikes, sudden ambushes, quick retreats before the enemy can surround them. For a few hours, it works. Mongol soldiers fall in narrow passes, scouts vanish in the woods, samurai archers fire from elevated positions before disappearing deeper inland. But the Mongols learn quickly. Their commanders send outriders ahead to identify ambush routes. Defensive positions are encircled methodically. Every isolated group or samurai is crushed, one after another. 120 defenders become 100, then 80, then 40. Kagetaka himself continues fighting despite arrows lodged in his body. Blood runs down his armor as he orders the remaining survivors into a small wooden fortress at the center of the island. The walls won't survive for long, but maybe darkness will create an opportunity to escape. The Mongols surround the fortress and wait. That's the worst part. They don't attack immediately. Instead, they let fear grow inside the burning structure. The defenders hear prisoners screaming outside. They hear enemy soldiers laughing in the darkness. Every passing second tightens the pressure inside their chests. Then the bombs begin. Explosions tear through the wooden walls one after another. Fire spreads across the roof. Smoke fills the air so thickly the defenders can barely breathe. Kagetaka looks at the few samurai still standing beside him. 20 men, almost the same number Sukekuni died with on Tsushima. The gates burst open. The samurai charge into the flames and smoke with everything they have left. No speeches, no glorious declarations, just exhausted men trying to kill as many enemies as possible before they disappear from history forever. Kagetaka cuts down several Mongol soldiers before a spear drives through his body. He collapses to the ground surrounded by enemies closing in from every side. Iki falls in a single day, another island destroyed, another samurai force annihilated, thousands more civilians captured or killed. And now the Mongol fleet sails directly toward Kyushu, toward the heart of Japan itself. By the time the ships appear at Hakata Bay, something has changed inside the samurai. Fear, not cowardice, understanding. They finally realize the old ways alone cannot save them. Honor without adaptation means extinction. So when the Mongols land expecting another easy massacre, they encounter something new. The samurai hold formation. They wait behind defensive positions instead of charging recklessly into open ground. They counterattack together instead of alone. Their movements are awkward and improvised compared to Mongol discipline, but slowly, painfully, they begin learning how to fight a modern war. And for the first time since the invasion began, the Mongols start paying for every step forward. Hakata Bay becomes a battlefield of exhaustion, terror, and desperation. The Mongols still outnumber the Japanese massively, but the easy victories are gone. Every advance costs lives now. Samurai archers fire from elevated positions, while coordinated groups strike exposed Mongol flanks before retreating into the hills. The beaches are littered with shattered shields, broken arrows, and bodies carried back and forth by the tide. By nightfall, neither side controls the battle completely. The Mongols secure sections of the coast and prepare for a final assault at dawn. Campfires flicker across the shoreline, while exhausted soldiers try to sleep beside blood-stained weapons. Then the sky changes. Clouds roll across the horizon, like a black wall swallowing the stars. The wind rises slowly at first, bending banners and snapping ropes against wooden masts. The Mongol sailors understand immediately. Something terrible is coming. Within hours, the storm crashes into Hakata Bay with unimaginable force. Waves slam against anchored ships hard enough to split wood apart. Vessels collide in the darkness while sailors scream over roaring wind and thunder. The sea becomes chaos. Men are thrown overboard before they even wake up. Ships smash into rocks hidden beneath black water. Entire crews vanish beneath waves that tower higher than fortress walls. Onshore, the Mongol camps collapse into panic. Tents rip apart and disappear into the storm. Fires are extinguished instantly by horizontal rain. Soldiers stumble blindly through mud, unable to hear commands or see more than a few feet ahead. And in the middle of that darkness, the samurai attack. Small groups descend from the hills like ghosts moving through the storm. They know the terrain. They know where the Mongols are vulnerable. They strike suddenly, kill quickly, then disappear back into the rain before organized resistance can form. The invaders cannot regroup. Their formations mean nothing in total darkness. For hours, nature and warfare merge into a single nightmare. When dawn finally arrives, Hakata Bay no longer looks like an invasion site. It looks like the end of the world. Wrecked ships float upside down across the water. Corpses drift between shattered beams and torn sails. Pieces of armor wash onto beaches alongside broken weapons and dead horses. Out of hundreds of ships, only a fraction remain afloat. The Mongol commanders understand the truth immediately. Without their fleet, they are trapped in hostile territory with no supplies, no reinforcements, and no path to victory. Retreat is the only option. The surviving soldiers rush back toward the remaining ships, abandoning weapons, wounded comrades, and dreams of conquest behind them. What began as one of the largest invasions in history ends in desperate escape. Thousands never make it home. Some drown during the retreat. Others are hunted along the coast by enraged samurai who remembered Tsushima and Iki. Prisoners are rarely taken. Too much blood has already been spilled. When the last surviving Mongol ships disappear beyond the horizon, Japan stands stunned. Against every logical expectation, they survived. Temples across Kyushu erupt with prayers and celebrations. Monks and priests claim the gods themselves intervened to protect the nation. The storm receives a name that will echo across centuries: Kamikaze, the divine wind. But far away in China, Kublai Khan refuses to accept defeat. The storm embarrassed him, but it did not break his ambition. The ruler of the largest empire on earth cannot allow a small island nation to resist his authority without consequences. So he prepares something even larger. Not 900 ships, 4,500, not 20,000 warriors, 140,000, the largest invasion fleet the medieval world has ever seen. For 7 years, Japan lives in fear. Every strange sail on the horizon sparks panic. Samurai patrol coastlines endlessly, while workers build massive stone walls across Hakata Bay, designed to prevent future landings. Clans that once fought each other are forced to unite, because everyone understands what the next invasion means. If the Mongols return and win, Japan disappears. By 1281, the second invasion finally begins. Two massive fleets sail toward Japan from Korea and China. One carries Mongol and Korean warriors. The other carries tens of thousands of Chinese soldiers forced into the campaign. But almost immediately, problems emerge. The fleets struggle to coordinate across enormous distances. Storms delay arrivals. Supplies run short. Ships packed with exhausted soldiers drift for weeks beneath brutal summer heat, while disease spreads through crowded decks. And waiting for them on the coast are samurai transformed by the first invasion. The Japanese no longer fight like isolated warriors seeking individual glory. They fight like survivors. Night after night, small boats filled with samurai silently approach Mongol ships under cover of darkness. They climb aboard, kill sleeping crews, burn sails, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. The Mongols begin fearing the darkness itself. Then, in August 1281, the sky darkens once again. Another typhoon, bigger than the first. The winds become monstrous, ripping masts from ships and hurling entire vessels against each other like toys. Waves rise into mountains of black water. Thousands of sailors pray, scream, or simply disappear beneath the sea. The invasion fleet disintegrates. For 2 straight days, the storm tears through Hakata Bay without mercy. Ships break apart faster than crews can abandon them. Men cling to floating debris while armor drags them underwater. When the storm finally ends, the greatest invasion force of the medieval era has ceased to exist. Out of 140,000 invaders, only a fraction survive. The rest are dead, drowned, executed, lost forever beneath the Sea of Japan. Kublai Khan never attempts another invasion. His dream dies with the wreckage scattered across Hakata Bay. And inside Japan, the legend grows larger with every passing generation. The gods protected the nation. The divine wind saved them. That belief becomes part of Japanese identity itself. It shapes politics, religion, warfare, and eventually even World War II, when suicide pilots call themselves Kamikaze, believing they carry the same sacred purpose as the storms that destroyed the Mongol fleets centuries earlier. But history is never that simple, because behind the legend are human beings. The 80 samurai on Tsushima, who stayed knowing they would die. The civilians hung from Mongol ships as living warnings. The Korean and Chinese sailors forced into a war they never chose. The survivors who carried trauma long after the battles ended. One of them is Takasaki Suinaga, the samurai who survived Komoda Beach. The arrows healed, the memories didn't. In a culture that glorified death in battle, survival itself became suspicious. Some viewed him as brave, others quietly wondered if he escaped while better men died. So Suinaga commissions an illustrated war scroll showing exactly what happened during the invasions. Explosions tearing through the battlefield, samurai falling beneath waves of arrows, chaos, fear, defeat, not myth, reality. He wanted future generations to understand the truth. The Mongols were not defeated because samurai honor was stronger. Not because they believed victory was certain, but because someone had to stand there first. Someone had to send the warning. Someone had to buy time. And centuries later, that impossible stand still echoes through history. 80 men against an empire. A battle that lasted hours, a legend that lasted 700 years. Lessons for us from this history. 1. True survival comes from adaptation. Tradition alone cannot defeat a changing world. 2. Courage is not always winning the battle. Sometimes it means standing your ground to protect others. 3. Fear and hatred can destroy nations, but unity and sacrifice can keep them alive. 4. History proves that empires are not unstoppable. Preparation, resilience, and human determination can change destiny.